And they have something like 2,000 active weblogs on a free platform, and he runs it by himself on a hosted platform. So this is a collection, interestingly enough, of blogs. Each student maintains an individual blog based on one particular type of technology, whether it's a zipper, a mobile phone, Technicolor telephones, birth control pills, but then all collected within one theme. Here's one on art in the age of technological reproduction. Apparently this has a lot of new media stuff in it. He told me I should show you that one, given your interests. Of course, he told me to show all of these. Oh, this is a class blog. These are K-12 students. So these are students who are like in their teens, and they're reading the Mary Shelley novel, Frankenstein, and sharing collaborative notes on it. That's a visual. Oh, this one here has got a really interesting mashup of the Tom Cruise movie Risky Business and The Little Mermaid. I don't know, does that make sense to you guys? Have you seen those originals? No, I'm not seeing it, so I'm not going to show you the mashup. There's no point. This is a nice theme. Toys as history. And look at the, again, you'll notice each one of these blogs has a very distinct visual identity. Jim's not designing these blogs. The people who control these spaces are making them look the way they want to. This is one on 19th century slavery. This is one on the American poet Emily Dickinson. This is interesting. This is just a collection of having students create their own literary journals. And this is just a collection of all these. This is a project with no budget. Lives of the Russian Revolution, aesthetic representation of the Spanish Civil War. Anyway, it's literally endless. And when you look at the amount of money that typically gets spent on educational technology projects, at least in North America, for these big corporate content course management systems that don't allow any flexibility and require huge support staffs to run, and then you look at something like this that one person has been supporting for an entire university with this degree of work, to me those changes are really important. And again, it gets to that notion of convivial tools. And I think this is something, speaks to something else. Does the word learning objects mean anything to this audience? I am a refugee from this learning object movement. This idea that teachers, to have sharing of resources, need special collections with very rigorous hierarchical metadata schemes and organized in just such a certain way. And they're often very expensive to run and very complex to use. But those of us who are on the internet a lot know that sharing stuff is not hard to do anymore. I know a lot of you are on Twitter because I know a lot of you are on my Twitter's list and I follow you. And essentially, the cost of organizing material and sharing materials is virtually dropped to zero. To go back again to, and not to mention content creation, that Wikipedia project cost the university nothing. We didn't pay for a license. We didn't have to pay for special machines. We didn't have to pay for instructional support. Yet 3 times now, I have tried to get funding to support more work like it, and I can't get it. In part because there's no money being spent. That's kind of the way the logic seems to be working now. And anyone who's had a blog or a YouTube feed or shared a link through Twitter or Delicious or any of these choices now, and there's so many of them that I could just sit here and list them off for the entire time, know that the cost of sharing has absolutely dropped to virtually zero. But we still go about, when we think about collaborative projects and content creation projects, as if the old logic still applied. So again, it kind of reminds me of that woman when she watched the DJ Girl Talk putting it together and that look of befuddlement. I think of that kind of reaction happening. I'll just tell you a story having to do with learning resources. So, like I said, I'm very interested in the open education movement. So, I'm just going to go through a few steps here. So there's this guy in Malaysia. I believe his name is Saeed. And he decided on his blog, just because he had some spare time, to write a list of every single open education project or free learning content site he could think of. So he didn't have a research project to do it. He just started going through collections and posting it. So he writes this really long blog post with links to podcast projects and the MIT OpenCourseWare, projects from around the world, other open repositories. So huge set of links. So he writes a blog post, nice blog post, thanks for writing it. Well then, a guy in England by the name of Tony Hurst, did you know that Google allows you to develop a custom search engine that with a very simple, you can point Google at a page and it will only search the links that are on that page. So if this list, it's actually here, right here. So, and then you can take that little search box and you can paste it anywhere you want. So this guy in England thinks, okay, that was a great collection of links. I'll use the free Google Co-op service. I'll point it at his set of links and then release it just as a Google search widget that anyone can embed. And as you can see, I embedded it on my blog here. And if I just want to type biology, it does a Google search and only returns materials from things like the OpenCourseWare initiative at MIT or Virginia, or fairly well, and all openly licensed that I can freely reuse in my courses without paying a royalty. So Zaid does that. Then a guy in Victoria, Canada, I won't show you this, he decides, well, we'll take that list of links and we'll put it on a wiki. So anybody else can come along and add links to other resource pages that Zaid didn't think to put together. And then eventually, he used that as a prototype, essentially, to create this free learning OER portal where he basically just took that simple technology and put a new skin on it. And voila, he's got this amazing multiple site federated search learning object repository. No one spent any money. There were no meetings, there were no federations, there were no consortiums, there was no membership, and it was done in less than a week. So that's the kind of collaboration that can happen, and again, the cost of sharing essentially goes down to zero. I'll give you another example too. I'm a little embarrassed to admit it, and I hope you won't hate me, because for a while I kind of hated everybody who had one of these things, and I dare not say its name. I call it the fetish phone. Some of you will get that. Now, it's a nice little toy and it does lots of fancy things, but if I want to justify this in terms of my work, what do I want it to do? Well, I thought I teach courses online. Sometimes I use WebCT, which is a very large course management system. Sometimes I use the blogs. I don't choose to use WebCT. This is a course that's assigned to me, needless to say. So I thought, okay, let's say I have to take a bus for 1.5 hours to get from my house to UBC on the bus. So that's a long time. I would like to see if there have been any new course discussions on my course, read them. I don't even have to respond to them. I just like to know if there's been new activity on my course. So here's the test. So first I tried to use this to get to my WebCT discussion board, and that's what it looks like there. Now I should note, it took me nearly 10 minutes to get here because I constantly had to be entering username and passwords, and it kept crashing.